Welcome to episode 170 of Sports Geek. On this week's episode, I chat VR, robots, and the blend of art and tech with Nancy Bennett.
Welcome to Sports Geek, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host, who has started a stand-up course to make his keynotes funnier, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. Yes, I did complete the stand-up course to hopefully make my keynotes funnier. I don't know if it's going to work, but we'll see. And you can check out my performance on my Facebook page. My name is Sean Callanan, and you are listening to Sports Geek. If you want to check out my School of Hard Knock Knocks comedy debut, you can go to facebook.com/Sean Callanan Speaks. Thank you very much for listening. If it's your first time, welcome. This is a podcast for sports and digital and technology executives to learn about the stadium, marketing, technology and social media space and how they can leverage it for their teams. You may be listening to Sports Geek on iTunes. You may be doing it on Google Play. We're now on Google Play. Or you might be doing it on my favourite podcast app, Pocket Casts. Thanks as always for listening. If you want to reach out and contact me, you can do so many ways. You can use old school email, sean@sportsgeekhq.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or send me a tweet at Sean Callanan, or you can message me in the growing Sports Biz Slack community. Just to sign up, you can go to sportsgeekhq.com/Slack. I'm really happy to be able to organise a catch-up with Nancy Bennett from 2-Bit Circus. I caught up with Nancy when I was in LA in March, and she does some absolutely fascinating things in the world of tech, VR, production, and the blend of experience and technology. Has a super interesting background in the leading edge of the music industry when music video was up and coming, so she's always looking at how to produce content, but then also leaning into the technology and how that can be done. So done a lot of stuff in the experiential space. So she works with a lot of amazing people on the leading edge of technology, art and experience, and I think there's a lot to learn from her experience and find out more about what she's doing with her micro amusement park that she's launching in 2018, because I think a lot of the things that we'll see in Nancy's Big Top, in the experience, we'll start seeing in stadiums. So here is my chat with Nancy Bennett from 2-Bit Circus. Very happy to have Nancy Bennett, the Chief Creative Officer and Studio Head from 2-Bit Circus. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Sean. Happy to be here.
And so when I was diving into your background, and it's vast and varied, I really had a really big time how I would do the intro and how I would describe what you do. So I'm gonna leave it to you. What do you do at 2-Bit Circus?
2-Bit Circus, I'm the Chief Creative Officer and Studio Head, and in our context, it's really about thinking through what the audiences want to engage with through our particular platform, which is going to be a 50,000 square foot micro amusement park in downtown Los Angeles with multiple iterations of that across the United States and then the world. And so we're building a platform where people can experience immersive engagement and interaction and be social and physical, playing games of all kinds, whether it's with content, escape rooms, story rooms, crazy 6 Degree of Freedom, interactive multiplayer VR, and more.
So, I mean, looking at it, and seeing shots of the Big Top, as you call it, it looks like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
Yeah, there's a little of that. It's a mad group of inventors and mechanical engineers, physicists, roboticists, creators, game designers who like to play with the latest in tech. And so as the Chief Creative Officer, my hope is that my skills, which have always been at the nexus of entertainment and technology, help to focus the beam on making engagement story throughout all those experiences. And everybody is very talented at the studio. So it's a wonderful play space and a big open machine room, 5 stories high, big floor plan with every kind of machine you need to do something interesting, whether it's a Tormach to create a camera on a piece of block of aluminum, or cut round images in wood on a CNC router, laser cut, lathe, or just use Adobe skills and make visual effects in VR or AR or anything else. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And very collaborative environment, and super, super creative. It's a lot of artistry.
So your background, how do you get to that position of pulling in all of these different tech, different methods of engaging, diving into this experiential space, but as well as, I guess, the VR and the storytelling and the movie side that you've done in your career? How do you get to here?
Well, I think, like most of your audience who happen to deal with making content, there's a high technology quotient to that practice. And one needs to understand how cameras work, how digital encoding works, how you disseminate and disperse and distribute content, how you think through story paths that are branched narratives and interactive and more. So it doesn't feel like an odd place for me to arrive. It feels like home in many respects. And maybe that's from growing up in an environment where my family was pretty geeky and nerdy with a lot of interest. But my dad was a physicist and, invented 2 lasers in the late 50s and always had us building televisions and taking apart microphones. So there was never discomfort around the laboratory environment and trying to invent new things, and there was never discomfort around science. So the art was the sort of glue that made those things more interesting because they became tools or part of the palette for creation. So I guess I just, I've been doing what I've been doing for a long time. I'm the oldest member of 2-Bit Circus, and we're not getting older, we're getting more valuable.
Exactly.
And over that time, I have, I came up in the film world and music video when it first began, and there was a lot of innovation based upon technology driving the ability to visualize and realize ideas in one's head, such as lip sync being accurate. And, throughout that arc of time, lots of new opportunities came to bear from digital encoding, like MP3s, certainly digital editing. And I'm sorry, you're hearing a lot of clicking and ticking, but I've got a lot of messaging coming in from Slack, which is how we sort of communicate.
That's fine. We expect, we've got a large Slack community. We expect to be getting messages and pings throughout the interview.
It's not like I have a band of little robots talking to me while chatting with you. But so I've been fortunate enough to be at sort of these crests of the waves of technological possibility that enable innovation and new forms of media expression. So every step of the way, that's what I've been able to do. And I feel very lucky. And I think it's also timing. And certainly AR and virtual reality are part of that. But I think we can also look at how these things come to be, and that there really is a slower path than people realize when it becomes, something like VR becomes more consumer aware is because of the hefty acquisition price that Facebook paid for Oculus. But in fact, VR has been around for more than 40 years. And I first started dabbling with it in the web sphere in 2005 when I was playing with Second Life, and I made a sales piece pitch for MTV Networks, and they got excited about doing online VR. So these things come around and go around and continue to evolve and grow. And the more that you practice your craft and the more that you seek other people's interests and excitement and what gets them excited to inspire you to delve in more, the more you know. And then you are part of that growing evolution, and the tools aren't so far asunder to grab and bring into your own world. They just become familiar. So I've been fortunate to be encouraged to pursue those passions and interests and conversations, not only in film and music video and the like, and technology, but in painting and abstract art and classical music and all kinds of things. astronomy. I mean, the more you know, the more of a systems thinking you have to draw from to make innovation come to life.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because with the sort of the technology and the content piece, which is the battle that's sort of happening both in the VR space, but then also in just the general digital content space, it's like, what needs to come first? Does the technology and the platforms need to be there, or do the content creators need to be there? And it's both, and that's what we're seeing in the VR space, because there's people sort of holding off, going, when's the tech going to be there for the masses? But if the tech's there for the masses and the content's not there, the masses won't go to it. So there's value in testing and trying out the platforms and trying to understand it in this sort of bleeding edge space that you're in. So you start understanding it. So when it does become mainstream, you're already there and you've had those lessons.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. I still believe that a really great idea, just like a great script, makes for a good movie. Yep. A great idea is what should be the springboard for discussion around what technology to use. I think technology can inspire and show you a path to realize something that's in your mind's eye. But I think that it's always in service of the creative goal. What's the goal? What's the goal? What's the goal? Yeah. That's the question I'm constantly asking staff, and they're asking me. And that's how you get to innovate, is to tell a great story, have a good emotional engagement with an audience, set about doing something that will enlighten someone, inspire someone, make them feel good, make them laugh, hopefully, and use the tech in service of that goal. And we've had a lot of, one of the great things about 2-Bit is that there are so many inventive engineering and mechanical engineering minds on our team. And so, when someone has approached me about doing something in VR, particularly in the early days of being able to do cinematic production in VR, like 5 years ago,
yep,
the tools didn't exist. So I would come up with an idea and I'd bring it to the engineering team and say, hey, could we build this helmet camera? Could we, capture the telemetry of a car at 170 miles per hour? Can we make a motion platform? What are the actuators that could actually give you 3 degrees of freedom, 4 degrees of freedom, blah, blah, blah? Can we, synchronize headsets? And they could say, sure, here's a fast prototype. And the next day I'd have something to play with to see if I could do it. And so very fortunate. I mean, never before 2-Bit Circus did I have a lab of fast prototyping partners to test out ideas before going to the big capture and delivery. So that's a wonderful thing. And I think that those types of skills are much more prevalent now, and I think the opportunities to collaborate with engineers and technologists for creatives is a huge, much better situation.
And also the technology that your guys have been patching together is starting to become near consumer level. You can get handheld 360 cameras and wearable cameras and those kind of things that you can then start playing around with. And so we're seeing a lot of sports teams are getting a hold of a 360 degree camera. Mm-hmm. What are some of the advice that you would give to say, well, this is what you've got. The easy thing to do is just to put it in the corner of the field and see everyone go by and get that wow factor of it's like I'm standing on the field. But is there a next in after you've got past that initial I'm playing with the new toy piece, to stop treating it like a toy and start going back to that storyteller? What am I trying to sell? What am I trying to tell in a story, and what's for the audience? What's your advice when you've got that new bit of tech? Because the easiest thing to do is just to go, wow, shiny new thing, I'm going to use it, without taking that step back and thinking about why.
Right. Well, that was there were a lot of questions in that raised a lot of interesting points. So I think, why do VR? I think one should always ask oneself when you have this shiny new toy, why do you have that toy, and what does that toy do that nothing else can do already?
Yep.
And in our sports world, sports on television is one of the best cinematic experiences you can have. It gives you intimacy where you wouldn't have it even with a front row seat or, on the courtside seat, and allows you to follow multiple angles with a really long lens and close shot that's following the cinematographers in NFL are phenomenal.
Yep.
In basketball, it's a fast moving game. In hockey, same thing. The ability to track the puck, and track the ball, track the players, to do instant replays. It's really quite spectacular. So how do you upend that with new technology and new medium? And VR has, I think, cycled through the 360 world pretty well. And I think there's a lot of reinvention of that wheel going on. That's not that exciting, quite honestly. And I think that the progress in VR 360 is stereoscopic, and is certainly in seeing camera movement where there wasn't before, and innovation and editorial technique that doesn't jar the viewer out of the immersion that they're feeling by being in that environment. But I think that the next step in the VR world is integrating other technological innovations. And so certainly augmented reality is part of that, but also room scale and interactivity, and really thinking about VR as a different kind of palette with which to paint stories. I think telling reality in VR is maybe not as exciting as going full on hallucinogenic. Visual effects are a wonderful playground in VR. You don't have as many problems with capture right now.
Yep.
I think in due time we'll start to see cameras like the Lytro and the ability to room scale capture come online for us, but it's still a ways to go. You need a 2-ton floor jack and an amazing data wrangling team to stitch together a lot of the data that you capture with the light field kind of technology still. And certainly capturing spherical Maya-ready stages in 3D it's just very time consuming and expensive to do and hard to do beautifully. Animation is a great medium for doing a lot of that kind of thing. So what's my advice for the person who's just got the VR camera for the first time? I think learn what it does that's different than everything else you see by practicing, by trying things, and try and break it, and try and edit differently, and definitely ask yourself why do I need this? Why would I use this in this particular instance? And if you can't answer it well, and a DSLR wouldn't serve you better, don't do it.
Yeah.
And in so being that filtration, that moderator of your own work, you're going to enhance the quality of the VR content that's out there. I think one of the concerns we all have is that there's a lot of garbage being seen. So it actually demotes people's interests in virtual reality, not those who are really excited about it and imagine the possibility alongside the evolution of the technology to get to that idea that they imagine, right? That's a mouthful, I know.
No, but it is, like you said, it's if you make it a staple and it's a poor staple, it's not something that people are going to engage with. But if you set it for that premium piece of content and it's that must watch, and it is the reason you pull out the Daydream or the Oculus to feel and see that experience, then that's why you're using the tool for that reason. But it's not something, even though now we're seeing the NBA rolling out the next VR, coverage of the games, it's still foreign to most people to go, well, hang on, I've always watched basketball this way. What is it, how does it look, in this form? So you're still sort of taking them on the journey to give them those little entrees and snippets to say, well, this is what this world can offer. And then when you add all the other layers that are there, that's just not vision, I guess that's the piece where people will start going, wow, from a point of view. And the other part of it is the VR side of things is it's that one-to-one. And tell us about some of the stuff like you've done to try to feel like have that group feel of all being part of it, because that's one of the big parts of sports is that you feel like you're part of you are part of a stadium and you are there and you're having this joint experience. There's things that you've done in group viewings and things like that for films.
Yeah, well, early on for sure, and they're still being utilized today. So, I think nobody wants to be isolated all the time. Maybe when you're on a plane, it's great to watch a bunch of VR by yourself. But I think that any really good experience is one where you're like, did you see, or wouldn't it be cool if? I mean, those are the inspiring conversations between people about things that they see and ideas that they have. And so VR being the solo moment most of the time, and fortunately there are a lot of interactive tools coming online. In the early days, we set up a sync system that could take multiple headsets, Gear VRs in this case, and synchronize them to play the same content at the same time. And we did that, back, 4.5 years ago, something like that. And the most people we did at once was probably 250 people at Sundance and maybe 200 at World Economic Forum to trigger. At the World Economic Forum, we triggered a documentary. We did the same one at Sundance by Lynette Walworth, which is a beautiful piece that actually just won an Emmy. That is about it's about down in your neighborhood of the world and about nuclear testing on indigenous people. And it's a beautiful piece, and it's really well done. Jaunt was the producing company, and it's about a 20-minute experience, and 250 people got to watch it together, and it's emotionally moving and powerful, and they could take the headset off and look at each other and go, wow, did you see? That really amazed me. Or, the way we talk about movies when we're in them together. So that was a great moment to be able to provide to people, and we continue to do that. But I think where we're all hoping is that we can invade each other's VR space at some point when the right content setup is there, and that's what you want. And I think we're seeing more of that. We're seeing that with multiplayer VR, 6 Degree of Freedom, motion chairs, and the like, which we're doing quite a bit of in our micro amusement park. So, and then if you start adding, global internet connectivity in the mobile world, and adding AR elements and touch and gesture, whatever else you can do, it's going to be really interesting, really exciting space to play in.
So the micro amusement park that you're building, I mean, it very much is following the trend of experiential and all immersive type experiences that we're seeing pop up around activations and that kind of thing, and we're seeing as sports stadiums around the world are being developed, they're trying to get more interactivity. I mean, I'm for one looking forward to seeing what it becomes, because I can see parts of the activations that you're doing in that space to be then moving into arenas around the world, so people can more interact with the building. Is that sort of something that you see might be coming out of what you're doing in that space?
Sure. I think, we've been in the location-based entertainment and activation space forever. That's what Two Bit Circus does. I mean, it's about, the guys, Brent and Eric, who are the co-founders of the company, along with the other three of us, started making games for their own entertainment and then bringing them to parties and realizing that everybody there wanted to play them. So it was very entertaining, and they loved to entertain. So that's the origin of the company. So, and all the work that we've done in VR has been location-based activation, from the very first one, which was an IndyCar piece for Verizon that went all over the place, and to NFL Super Bowl for Verizon in Super Bowl 49 in Phoenix, where we put 30,000 people through an experience of the point of view of a punt return. And this was, in April of 2014. January of 2014. February 3rd, 2014, something like that. Anyway, that was a long time ago in VR time. The All-Star Weekend stuff we did for NBA was around that time. U.S. Olympics for Road to Rio for Samsung was about the point of view of a gold medalist who's a platform diver and going off of that diving platform into the water and really following that path, going right into the water, building cameras that could do that at the time. Just really trying to move you through spaces and give you a feeling that you could share and discuss as much as possible. And then we did an NBA piece for NBA Rio, the Olympic House there with Samsung, where we did the point of view of an in-game basketball play, where we built a helmet camera that actually could capture your hands and feet in scale, without distortion, without blur problems, moving about the court and playing a game, passing the ball. And it, it makes a difference to feel the scale and perspective as your eye sees it in the VR space. And so those were always the kind of challenges we had. Is like, how can we do that? I want to see the hands and feet. If I can't see the floor and my feet moving around, why would I be in VR in a basketball game? For NFL films, I think the challenge there are so many challenges when you do a live, something that's televised and broadcast rights are owned by multiple people for billions of dollars, and try and capture those things. You're sort of limited with your purview of what you can capture, but what's the story? And, NFL Films has a very particular storytelling line, which is, the sort of Hard Knocks vein, and capturing that in a documentary vein and applying it to that kind of outline and structure was tricky, but moving the camera was what was important, and editing the camera to make you move, to see the different perspectives that you don't get to see. Was just about the only thing we could do. Believe me, I wanted to put it on the spider cam.
Yep.
If only I could have. But we did some innovative things. And so I'm not sure if I just went adrift there, but
I think it is interesting because especially that last point around the rights and things like that. That is one of the restrictions that you do get these a tool in that sense, and there are restrictions around the rights and the piece that people want to do. They can't do because the TV rights are sort of bundled up, and so I think it will be interesting in the next 5 to 10 years as rights move, and hopefully the lawyers and the tech guys get together to, I guess, slice them out a little bit more. We might see that the VR rights or the different types of rights be harvest off and potentially either remaining with the rights holder, or we might see platforms bidding for those versions of the rights. I mean, it's become potentially can become another revenue stream.
Oh, no doubt, and add data to that, and machine learning and AI. I mean, there's so much. There's a lot of data in sports, and in addition to rights holders and money and control and concern, they're tracking players and their stats and accompanying that material within the VR headset or AR or on your mobile phone. All those things are definitely in conversation and possible. But I think it's hard for the newbie, stepping into the space. It's one thing to get the shiny new toy, but then how do you access the stuff to actually do it? And I think the personal stories outside of the league, multi-million-dollar contracts is the place to start playing, because it's hard. It's competitive. Number one, there are people who have done a lot of this, including the leagues themselves, and the people who are inside each of the teams, capturing content for social uses and promotion within each team. So getting access to the real deal is tricky. So what are the human stories on the outside? I mean, we can all look at probably the best sports film ever. There's probably a lot of argument over this, and I'm sure your viewers can vote on which film that might be. But to me, it's Friday Night Lights. Yep. And Friday Night Lights is really heartland goodness, and it's the average American person. Yep. It's struggling, and so it's a very emotionally riveting story that happens to be in the football vein, right? So there are ways to tell stories, and the question is, again, is VR the right vehicle? Is AR the right vehicle? Are the two combined the right vehicle? Should I just use, can you use all of it? Yeah. And it's always, what's the creative goal? Always.
And I think the other thing about the technology that might be the thin edge of the wedge to get in is potentially how VR could help on the coaching and the operations side.
Oh yes,
like we've already seen basketball players using VR to help them train and shoot better free throws, or as training tools, or you can just imagine we're already seeing soccer players using FIFA and sort of visualizing how the plays are going to play out. Well, if they're doing that with a controller, put that into a VR space, and a quarterback can do his whole playbook in a VR space. I think that's most likely where the most development, and there's always more funds on the coaching side than the content creation side in the sports space. I think that's where VR will go, and then then the piece is what part of that component can we pull out for the fan point of view, and that kind of thing, similar to what the Golden State Warriors did in their pitch to Kevin Durant. They did a full VR pitch to say, hey, this is what it's going to be like if you become a Golden State Warrior, and they were able to take a portion of that and actually show the fans.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I was only talking about entertainment. So,
yeah.
I mean, on the technology, training, and scientific exploration side, it's probably a bigger business than anything else, because you can use it as a diagnostic tool. You can use it for, presbyopic correction. I mean, there are incredible things going on, and you can do a lot of measurement using that device against how people see things and interact with things. So again, the data, the conversation between give and take of data is something that can really advance health and wellness and performance and everything else. And that's a wonderful, marvelous world. Whether you're training somebody in heart surgery who can't access tools to learn in a third world environment, or, who knows? I mean, everything is possible.
So how do you both keep on top of, I guess, trend lines and where the tech and where the, where to quote Wayne Gretzky, where the puck is going, but also not be distracted by that? Because like if you look at the pundits around the latest phones, and they're like, oh, Google and Apple, they haven't put as much into VR. This might be the death of it, or it's not going in, because there was people betting on that the phones were going to do different things. How do you play the long game, but also trying to keep an eye on where the trends are going, but also not be distracted by that?
Well, that's a very tough challenge, because there are only so many hours in a day, and somebody needs to invent a 48-hour day. Thank you very much. But I think there are two fronts. For me personally, I still, I stay in touch with a lot of colleagues who I admire, and I read as much as I have time to read, and then some. I listen to a lot of the articles that I don't have time to read while I'm driving to and from the office or to meetings. I attend a handful of conferences for quick ins and outs, whether it's VRDC, which I really like, or SIGGRAPH, or CES even. I think there are really great consortiums, community gatherings. Well, like your podcast, I'm sure, is one of those examples, right? But the New Museum, New Inc. has an interesting group of people who actually came out here this week and had a breakfast to gather people together from last year's conversation to forward conversations. And everyone in that room had a discipline that was so different than mine, but so incredibly compelling and interesting, and, got all the wheels spinning. And within 2-Bit Circus, one of the things that I love about what we do is that we're very community driven, and community meaning not just in LA, though very strongly so. It's a global conversation amongst creators and technologists alike. And we are collaborating with partners to bring projects to life within our facility, our distribution platform. And that enables us to be very close to the front-facing nerves of what's in development. And, it's not all about us. It's about the movement of entertaining and engaging, interacting, playing, learning, moving forward. So that's a great opportunity. So I'm learning a lot from my colleagues and from our colleagues outside of 2-Bit. There are destinations that I like to frequent, online and otherwise. I like to go to the movies a lot. I can't help it. I mean, who doesn't like a good visual effects thing? I like to watch really good stories, and I get recommendations from friends on a lot of those too. Everything that David Fincher does, I like to watch. I can't help it. And in terms of websites and stuff, I like to look at things. I go to midnightsherpa.com and look at what they're doing. I go to gretel.tv, which is just one of the best design firms ever. And they understand graphic design as well as motion graphic design and how to put a brand into context. Things they're known for are, Vice and Vice Lens,
yep.
Brand aesthetic, Netflix, Apple's work. But I worked with Greg at Gretel back when I was at MTV, and designed the look and feel of a network called Logo. And he is just phenomenal, and all of his team are great. I watch series like Abstract on Netflix, which is so good and so inspiring, and so many different disciplines, and I recommend it highly. I listen to Voices of VR. I think Kent Bide is a really smart man, and he really stays on top of it. I don't know how he jetties from one conversation to the next. He must be all over the world. We also, we have an Asian division. Richard Chang is the chairman of 2-Bit Circus Asia, and the conversation between here, China, Japan, and Korea, and other places in Asia is really percolating. And I think, technologically and in terms of the passion for immersive interaction being a lot more advanced there is great, but also the ability to tell stories with it is something that I think we might be a little bit better at over on this side of the world. And so there's a really nice give and take going on there. One of the things that I wanted to jog back on when we were talking about tech stacks and creators and all those challenges is that what's really different now than it has been over the past 20, 25 years is that the creation is being fueled by technology companies to a large degree. In the beginning, they were the ones who were fueling content creation, Samsung, Google, Facebook, Oculus, right? And it's really different. If you have worked with networks and film studios and screenwriters, and then you go into a creative conversation with a tech company, it's a very different conversation. And there's a lot of education that needs to happen, not just around how technology talks to creatives, but how we all talk about these new forms of medium that are coming out, and really not rely on old vernacular, because it must change. And I think I would encourage your audience to be part of that dialogue and changing the way that we describe the process and our end goals, because you don't really want to force fit film and television and sports as we've seen it in the past into
the new model.
Medium of what we're doing now, because it has to have social impact, connectivity, interaction, a different kind of way to be consumed. And you'll see those changes, because everyone is moving away from TV to expand their model in other ways. I'm not saying that TV's going away. Certainly it's better filmmaking than it's ever been, but it's going to be different out there with these technologies and these new platforms and mediums.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely seeing, the Amazons, the Facebooks, the Twitters sort of push themselves into the media space. And in their initial foray, it was a traditional broadcast approach to just acquiring the rights and, hey, we'll show the rights on our platform, and treating their platform like a TV channel, when that's not what their platform is, but they haven't figured out what their what their version of broadcast is. How social is integrated. It's not as simple of just changing your, the company description on the Play Store to say you're a media company. It's you've got to figure out how it fits in your ecosystem. Yeah,
no doubt.
And I think,
it's not unlike music video back in the day. The thing that was great about it is that there wasn't anything that said this is how you do it. So it was a really nice, moth to the flame draw for creatives, because, like Adam Bernstein, when we were doing Love Shack and Rome and Baby Got Back and Hey Ladies and all those videos that he directed at that time, the stuff that I was involved with as a producer or director when I was at Atlantic Records, we had carte blanche. We could do anything as long as we could shoot it. Yep. And you got some really zany, funny, fantastic things, and I think we're in that moment. So in terms of experimentation, I encourage it, and don't be afraid. Make your mark. Go out and play, but ask yourself, why am I doing it?
Yeah,
right.
Definitely, the why am I doing it, and the audience question, who is it for? How do I want them to react? Is so vital with every bit of content that you're producing, because if you can't answer, like you said before, if you can't answer it, then there's no bother doing it.
Yeah.
So So, lastly, where can people find you on the internet and find out more about Two Bit Circus and about the Beta Nights?
Well, you can find out about Two Bit Circus at twobitcircus.com, and you can find me there pretty easily too. And I am on Twitter, but mostly I'm just, appalled by what's going on politically in the United States, and that's what you're going to see in my Twitter feed. But I don't have much time to go to Facebook and to snap images for Instagram.
Yep.
I'm pretty steeped with the launch of the park at the end of March in 2018 and making content for that. And I hope I'll see everyone at the park. So come on down, sign up on Two Bit Circus for Beta Nights, and
so March 2018 is the date when you'll be launching.
Yes.
Do you know how many days that is yet? Is that on the wall that's getting torn down every day?
We're 4.5 months away.
Yeah,
sure. It's a countdown.
Yeah. Well, best of luck. We've all had those big projects, not 30,000 square foot type PlaySpace project, so it's a massive project. I wish you all the best because trying to get robotics and technology, you're going to have to. I joke that I have to make sacrifices to technology gods just to do a Skype call. So I don't know what exactly you're going to have to do to launch the space. But if you need me to smash a few old phones to get your project over the line, just give me a call and I'll do that.
Thank you kindly, Sean. And it's a pleasure to be chatting with you today. And definitely come to the park. Definitely sign in for our newsletter at twobitcircus.com, and you'll hear more about what we're doing.
Definitely. I look forward to it, and I hope to catch up with you soon.
Great. Thanks so much.
Want to start driving more revenue from digital? Go to sportsgeekcampaigns.com.
Thanks again to Nancy Bennett. Be sure to go to twobitcircus.com and sign up for those Beta Nights. I'm already looking forward to it. I'm going to make sure that my next stop in LA, once it is open, we'll make sure I will stop by and check it out. Even though Halloween has just passed, I hope it's not scary. I'm one of those people that gets scared far too easily, but I'm all about diving in on the experience and tech. So really looking forward to what Nancy and the 2-Bit Circus team produce. Just a few things. I'm recording this on Saturday before this episode airs, and in Melbourne it is Melbourne Cup week. Melbourne Cup is the horse race that stops the nation. We have a public holiday on Tuesday for the Melbourne Cup, so I'm looking forward to going to Derby Day, and I'll report back on how it went, and then keep an eye out on all things Melbourne Cup. There'll be some really cool stuff that I'll be sharing that's happening on Facebook and Twitter. So for those internationally, Melbourne Cup is the biggest horse race in Australia. It's one of the biggest horse races in the world. For my US friends, it's the Australia version of the Kentucky Derby. There'll be about 100,000 people, or roughly, attending Flemington 4 days. Saturday for Derby Day. And Cup Day, and Oaks Day, and everything around it. So, looking forward to the crush of people and checking out the activation. So I'll report back on that after it. But for those of you playing along at home, keep an eye out for the Melbourne Cup and what they're doing. One other point of news: the Rooster Bot that I have been talking about is now live. And wasn't it fortuitous to release it just as they sign Melbourne Storm great Cooper Cronk? So you can go to Sydney Roosters on Facebook and simply message to check out what we've done there. Added a few tweaks. It's very much a membership focus one, and giving them a lot of information around what they can do to find membership or season tickets. So there's a whole new component there where the fans can ask for different types of membership based on price or location. We added some view from the seat functionality, so you can pick your bay and then have a look at what the view looks like. It was really fun building it. If you want to talk about chatbots and how they might be able to help you, for mine, they're a really great data capture tool. And because we've got the tradable bits back end, we're getting some really interesting and rich data sets from the chatbots. And the fans are loving the content that they can go and discover. So it's very good for that passive content that you might have there and give it in the hands of the fans and see what they want to get. So if you want to chat about chatbots, please drop me an email or ping me on one of the several channels that I'm available on, but Sean at sportsgeekhq.com, or you can go to sportsgeekcampaigns.com and learn more about our partnership with Tradable Bits. Until next episode, my name is Sean Callanan, and you've been listening to Sports Geek.
Join over 1,000 sports business executives in Sports Biz Slack. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/Slack. Please leave an iTunes review for Sports Geek. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes. Find out how to drive between $8,000 and $30,000 in profit for each digital campaign you sell sponsors. Check out sportsgeekcampaigns.com. Just like Jimmy Butler, you can call Sean anytime at 614-407-0407-200.